Okay, hi everyone. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Cassie Sicheri. And Cassie's been working with me for a very long time. Once again, I'm Dr. Mona Gupta. I'm a psychiatrist in Raleigh. And Cassie and I have been working together for, I think, over 11 years.
Mhm.
Um, Cassie has been kind of my right-hand woman for all these years, and it's been amazing, and we've grown together. We've had kids together. Well, maybe I had my kids already, but they were little.
They were baby.
And then, she had a kid while we were together. We, had we thought pretty happy marriages, or
Mhm.
what we thought were happy marriages, and we were living this life together, being working moms, trying to kind of do it all. And then recently we both got divorces, or I'm in the process of one. She actually completed
Was
hers.
just finalized, yep.
And I would say it's almost like this it's it's the most traumatic thing that happens to someone.
Absolutely.
I lost my father, and that was extremely hard for me. But for some reason, I feel like this divorce is even harder for me. And I'm in the process of it still.
It's a
So
grieving.
it's a huge it's grief, but it's also like guilt, grief. But w- so we'll give you the timeline. So basically, when did you separate? Because in North Carolina, there's a law that you must be together for, well,
Legally separated.
legally separated for a year
Right.
from
12 months in one day.
yeah, 12 months in one day,
Yes.
and then you can file for divorce. So it's a really big deal because, a lot of women and men, um, it's really hard to leave your household.
Mhm.
It's really hard to have a separate life for a
Mhm.
year. And let's say, how do you do it, right? So I know. So when did you separate?
Um, let's see, so it was finalized in November, so I think he moved out in May
Hmm.
of 22? No, maybe it was a little I don't even know, remember.
But it was a
But it
year.
it was a year,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So you have to live a year separate, and you cannot have sex in that
Yeah.
12-month span, or it resets it.
Yeah.
Um And obviously we did not do that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we were separated a year. It was very difficult. We have a 4-year-old. Well, she's
Hmm.
4 now. So co-parenting and the division of the things and the division of the friends
Oh,
and
so
the division of the family.
well,
I
and
think
it's
the
all
family division has been the hardest for me.
well, and you were married for how long?
15 years, almost 16, but
Yeah,
we were
and
together
so
for 18.
for me, it was 22 years this year. We've been separated for a year, and we're over the year mark, but apparently you can extend. So I'll be married for another month. But yeah, it's the most stressful thing that I've been through. And it's not just because it's not just us, right? Like
No.
we made this decision. It was really, you made your decision. I made my decision. It was not easy. This was not an
And it's not
easy
a decision you
decision.
make lightly. I mean,
Ugh.
in hindsight, I truly didn't realize how hard it would be.
Mhm.
I still have to see him every day. And I say have to like it's a bad thing because actually we get along very well.
Mhm.
I'm very fortunate that we co parent well and, um, there's no animosity and nobody's mean to each other. I mean, we get a little sassy sometimes, but in general, it's good. But I knew was done. I knew I didn't want to be in the marriage anymore. Um, but just the fallout that
Goes on,
goes
yeah.
on with it was
Well, and the guilt, right?
the guilt's so huge.
Well, and I think the other thing is when like, I know that I maybe thought of divorce in the 20-year span, I probably thought about it a lot, because in my marriage, it was just a very it wasn't just we weren't as friendly probably to each other, and I feel like, I did a lot of things alone. And I don't know if, why that happened, but it was what it was, right? And I think there were many times in our marriage where I was like, I'm going to leave, or I want to leave, or this shouldn't be, I don't think this is normal. But I stayed because we had children together, because our families, I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And also because I don't want to just use that word lightly, right? So when I was ready to say it,
You
it was,
meant it.
no, it was done. Like it
Right.
wasn't something that was lightly. It was like in my mind, in my, like, for a long time. But I finally pulled the trigger. And once you pull the trigger, especially for women, I feel like
There's no going back.
there's no going back
Right.
because it was not light, you know? And I have 3 kids, you have 3 kids. Um, and for you, you guys had this beautiful blended family, right? And for me, my husband and I, we had these 3 children together, and for me, I just poured all my energy in my kids, so I didn't really worry about my marriage, right? But as they got
Well, that's
older,
the person too that's supposed to be your partner and be by your side, that's supposed to be helping with the kids and being that support when you come home. But I think a lot of it too is just because I've known you for so long, as you guys were both so busy with your careers too, that there was never that real time for you to come together. So it was like you were running separate businesses, with your house being the third business, where there wasn't really any cohesiveness in the home
in the
business, if that
relationship,
makes sense.
yeah.
So then there was no relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. I think that we all need to think about that. And I'm not a proponent of divorce. I don't think divorce is good. I do not recommend it to anyone. I think it's the worst thing that you can go through. I do. I think it's the number one worst thing you can go through. Maybe losing a child would be worse, but anything else, like divorce is horrible. It's very painful. Um, and so when my friends are starting to consider it or whatever, I'm like, think 100 times before you do it, right?
Yes. We
Because
had
it's,
those
mhm,
those talks for months and months and months and months.
yeah, because you
Am I
don't,
doing the right thing? I mean, because we
yeah,
know each other very well.
yeah,
So, you know, we know, and we had to like reconfirm with each other. No,
yeah.
you are
No,
making the
it's
right
okay.
decision.
It's okay.
This
You
is
got this.
okay.
Yeah,
You are going to be okay. Your
yeah.
family's going to be okay.
Right, and especially the kids. I mean, you just worry so much about your kids. Like you have a 4-year-old and her asking you, "Where's daddy?" or whatever.
Mhm.
It's really hard to listen to.
Mhm.
And the amount of tears that moms or dads maybe, but mom, all I can do is speak for us, is is tremendous. I mean, I would cry out in the street so my kids wouldn't hear me, or I
Right.
cry in the shower so my kids don't hear me. But the truth is they know,
Oh, of
you
course they
know?
know. And they lash out. My children were grown. They no longer, I actually, within the same week, I mean, I think you remember this.
Mhm.
Um, my ex-husband moved out. My oldest son moved out. He was 22 at the time, and my daughter moved out. So, and she was 19 at the time. So, I went from a 5-person family to a 2-person family, me and a 3-year-old at the
Mhm.
time. So it was the empty nest, it was the divorce, it was
Everything all at
everything all
once.
at once. And it was very difficult. And not only,
Well,
my
because I
kids were moving out not because of the divorce. It was just they were ready, they were time, they got a place, they had like good jobs, they were, just moving forward with their lives. It's just it happened all at the same time.
And I feel like with you, like, and me, I think we were super moms. We would go to work, then come home, then plan these lavish birthday parties, themed birthday parties. Your Easter is out of control. Your Christmas is out of control. Like, we just, I don't know. We did so much. And I think some of it was probably compensating for being the only parent who was really doing a lot of those
Mhm.
things. Um, but I feel like, that's the other thing, the guilt of our kids not having that family, that look, is so huge.
It's
And
been so, so difficult. My older 2 children, that's been the hardest.
mhm.
So
It's funny because you would think the 4-year-old would be the hardest, but
no,
it's actually the
it's
older
it's my 2
ones.
grown
Mhm.
children. They see me as selfish.
Mhm.
They see me as, breaking up the family. I ruined their family.
Mhm.
Um, and they still feel this way.
Well, I have a
It's
kid who feels that way too,
and we're
and
preparing,
yeah.
slowly, and they're sorry, I think I heard this go off, and I did. Um, we're slowly repairing and things are getting better, and I'm trying to do more with them, but it's so
Well, then there's the guilt, right? Because you
yeah,
wanna make them happy, and all we've done our whole life is tried to make
that's
them
our number
happy,
one goal.
and now we're making everyone upset. you know?
But we're finally happy.
Yeah, and well, I don't even know if we're happy yet. You know what I mean?
Getting there.
Yeah, but I feel like there's like we're hoping for happy, right? I
Right.
think that um I know we will be happy. I know that, it's definitely lighter, but and there's light at the end of the tunnel for sure, but this is extreme struggle. Like for you, your divorce was kind of smooth. I feel
It's
like
very fortunate.
your ex-husband was kind,
Yes.
and you were kind to him, and you
Yes.
guys were able to like, um separate in a kind of a I mean, yes, there were days where it was hard. I'm not
Yes.
saying that. And there was days where there's anger and agitation, but in general, I feel like you guys really did a nice kind of Gwyneth Paltrow uncoupling, right?
Is he Gwen or am I Gwen? That's what it
But for me, like, I don't feel like it's a Gwyneth Paltrow uncoupling. I would love it to be, but there's always an angrier party. And I think in yours there was too, but it was just still kind, right?
yes.
Mine is there's not no,
There's no
mm-mm,
kindness.
no, no. There's kindness. There's kindness on one side. And I think that my ex or husband, he thinks he's being kind, but the truth is like, it is what it is, right? And it's really, really tough. And it's tough when you have like so for me, we have properties together. We have a business together and, our businesses and we have children together and we have families. You know, it's really interesting. The money stuff, who cares? I really don't care. Like, whatever, we'll figure it out,
Right.
But the family stuff is really, really where it
Very
gets
hard.
you. And your kids, splitting your kids is
And your
so
friends.
hard. Your friends,
I have friends now that I haven't seen in a year and a half.
well, and you feel kind of
And
like,
they feel awkward. Do I invite you? Do I invite
yes,
them? Do I invite you
exactly.
both? Like
Who
who's coming?
Well,
Like
and then also your
is
family,
it
like your
now my friends
in-laws.
literally they're coming. Is it your weekend with Emma?
I
Because if it's your
know.
weekend with Emma, then I'll have the birthday party that weekend. Or what we can do is I can switch it and we could do I'm like, I feel like I'm
Don't
affecting
overthink it. I
everybody's
know. I know.
lives.
And the other thing is like for me, even my family, like, really, I mean, surprising because I'm from an Indian family and it's pretty
You're Indian?
conservative. But it's pretty it's pretty conservative. Like every, culture has a different way of dealing with divorce. And, in India now, divorce is probably more common than it used to be. But when you come as an immigrant child, your parents come with a set of values from whatever time they came. So
Right.
they came from the 70s, so they have 70s values. So when your parents come from India and they're with the 70s values, divorce is just something that was not talked about. You don't do it, you get married and you stay, you know? And so for me, divorce was it was like a faux pas. You don't do it. It's not even something you discuss. And so it was really hard to make this decision.
I was gonna say, I
It
feel
took
like
me,
too, when you made your decision, you had made your decision and you knew what you were gonna do.
yeah.
I think you had the hardest time telling your mother.
Oh God, telling
You
my
were
mom.
sick. You
Yeah.
were like sick to your stomach. You're like, I'm gonna throw up, but
Yeah.
I have to tell her this weekend. I remember like, and I was like, just, and it turned out amazing.
No, and like that's the thing. So then, I'm assuming that everyone's gonna say like, "What are you doing?" And there were people who the main thing people said is, "What about the kids?" And I'm sure you got that too. What
Oh,
about Emma,
yeah.
right? So everyone has good intentions, but they say, "What about the kids?" And then I would say, "What about me?" Like I got
Mm-hmm.
really frustrated with "What about my kids?" Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm their mother. I will take care of them. You will take care of
My
Emma.
whole life is dedicated to them.
But how can you say, "What about the kids?" to me? Like that really got under my skin. And finally, I said to my mom, I said, "Mom, if you say, 'What about the kids?' one more time, I won't talk to you." Because how could you even think that I wouldn't think about my kids? Right. And so she was like, and I said, "But what about me?" And she goes, "Wow." And it was really powerful for her to hear that. But really, what about us? Like, it can't be about everyone else always. Right.
Right. Especially if we're supposed to be, the matriarchs of our families and strong and supportive and the go-to person. If we don't take care of us, we can't take care of anybody.
Well, and like living in a house where you're walking on eggshells all the time is not okay. It's not okay for your kids to see. It's not okay for you to
Because
see,
then they'll
you to
marry
be in it
that too.
and think it's okay.
And the cycle will repeat itself.
And to be honest, I grew up in a house where kind of, it was my dad was amazing, but I mean, what he said goes, and like, it was like, daddy's coming home, we have to get home. Daddy's coming home, we got to do this. And it was just because that's how the feeling was. It wasn't probably that he expected it, but my mom
Set that
thought,
precedence.
yeah, like daddy's home, we got to go home, you know? And so then even here, I feel like it became very like we were just walking on eggshells all the time. And I saw my daughter starting to walk on eggshells and try to please everyone. And, that's how I became. And I don't want that for her. I don't want it for my sons to see that that's okay too. Like, so that was really the reason I left. It wasn't so much like my ex and me, it was more my kids. I want them to be
Home
able
needs to be that safe space.
Well, I want them to be able to
Comfortable.
leave. Like, you're not stuck. You're never stuck. Like, and I do think because we're working women, we were able to leave,
Yes.
right? So that's the
Yes.
other thing I want women like Emma and Arya and all these kids to realize that, you know what, you need to be independent. Like, you can't depend on someone. You've got to, be able to, like, I couldn't have left if I didn't have any money, right?
No, you can't. And if you know, like especially the stay-at-home moms, and
It's so scary. Like, I
they don't have
understand.
income, they don't really have control of anything, and if you're unhappy, oh well. Like you
Well,
don't
so
really have any.
And as a psychiatrist, I see tons of stay-at-home moms.
Yeah.
I see stay-at-home dads, right? They are stuck. Like,
Mhm.
they feel stuck. Like, they are, because, in North Carolina, they have that 1 year rule, which I think is preposterous, and they should get rid of it because it makes it impossible to leave. Like,
Mhm.
if you're a stay-at-home mom, how do you leave? How do you leave the
Because you can't live in the
house?
same residence for a year.
You have no money. How,
Right.
like, your own. So you're stuck, right? And you're at the whim of someone else. So I do think teaching our girls that they need to understand finances, and boys, but I think a lot of women get into the stay at home. I mean, there are stay at home dads, but there's more stay at home moms. And I feel like, before you kind of lean into that, kind of always, I'm not saying have an exit plan, but always have an exit plan.
Yeah, you should have your own bank account. You should, you're doing a job. You work 180 hours a week as opposed to your spouse who may work 50. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So there should be, I don't want to call it an allowance, but you should have a salary that is
Yeah.
for you that goes into a separate account. Not saying it's your be prepared to run away money, but just
No, yeah.
having that nest egg that you.
But I do think that women get too comfortable, and you should never be comfortable. I think you should, like, I mean, really, the only reason I could leave is because I had something to like land on. And so if anything, I want to teach my daughter that. The other thing is, I don't know about you. I mean, I think you were better. You're more of the financial person in your household, but I am not. And so I would depend on my husband to, do our retirement or do this or do that. So I wasn't in control. I don't have those statements even.
Yeah, you don't know.
It's stupid. Like, am I stupid? And my,
No, you're normal, I think. I think that's the
but
norm.
that
In my
sucks.
home, I was just the one that handled the finances. Um,
I
I set
know.
up all the accounts. I did all the bills. I did,
So then, but see, you have more control because you had all that.
yes,
I
100%.
like for me, now I'm going through this divorce, and this is something I definitely want to teach women, men, whoever. Like, know your stuff, know it. Like, know where your accounts are, know where your retirement is, know where your husband or wife's retirement is, know all of it. Like, keep your eyes wide open. You never plan for a divorce. There was no way in a million years that I would be getting a divorce, right? I mean, I
Same.
didn't plan on this. You didn't plan on this. We thought we were going to die with these people, right? So you're not going to plan to have a book full of this information. So when you go through a divorce, you have it, right?
Right.
So now it's about finding it, and
Daunting.
it's daunting, it's scary. So, you may have, I mean, and this could be for someone who has very little money or a lot of money, but you should know where your money is, right?
One thing is one of my cousins, and I've always just been thought this was super cool. She's a stay-at-home mom.
Mhm.
They have 2 children, but they have like weekly family budget meetings, and they sit down and they go over every penny they spent. They go over, and they're not poor. Do you
No,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Actually, they're, you know, better off, you
Mhm.
know? So, um, and both parties know where every penny is going. They set their budget for the next week. Okay, we got a birthday party, so we're going to need to spend this amount on a gift for the
Yeah.
friend. And you know what I mean? And
It's communication, really.
it's the
Yeah.
communication.
I think communication is key in marriages.
And I felt bad for my ex-husband because, you know, I was like, one of the reasons I was struggled with leaving him is I don't know that he can do it
Yeah.
on his own.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he has. You know what I mean? He is an adult.
Mm.
But I think that was one of the reasons too that I struggled in the marriage is, you know, not to change subject, but is I was raised by a single mom. So she was the mom and the dad. She was very strong. She handled all the things. She was got married when I was 16. So I never really had like a father, you know what I mean? I met my dad way later in life, and he's amazing and whatnot. But growing up, I didn't have one. So to me, the woman, the mom, does all of it.
And it's funny because you had it as a single mom. I had it as an Indian mom, and the
Right.
mom does everything,
Everything.
So
Yeah.
same concept, but different, right?
Right. And so then when I got married, I was a single mom for a couple years with my oldest two. I met my ex-husband when my youngest at the time was 2. My oldest was 4. We got married about a year later. And that single mom mentality continued.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll do it. I got it. I'll do it. I got it. I'll do it. I got it. And
Well,
then
it's almost also like explaining it to someone is just like,
it
I'll
takes
just
more
do it.
time.
Yeah, exactly.
But then here's the kicker. I would be resentful and frustrated that I was the
Yeah.
only one doing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have to fault myself as well because I did all of the things as well because I felt like it was my role.
Right.
But that's what I want to change.
But that's
Like,
that
that's
guilt.
the thing we have to change for
Yes.
our children is that it's a shared role.
50-50.
And, we can say 50-50 all day long. I get it. The moms, yeah.
Yeah.
Moms, to be honest, like it is, and I'm not trying to be like, sexist or whatever. Like I believe that, it's in our kind of DNA to take care
The
of our
nurturers.
kids. We're the nurturers. It is what it is. So we're not going to ever be 50-50 when it comes to that. But we could be 60-40. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we don't have to do 80%, 90% of the stuff. And it's a favor if they're taking care, like they're babysitting their kids.
Thank you for unloading
right?
the dishwasher. Why? Why am I thanking you?
Yeah. No, I still feel like that. I'm
I
like,
do too.
yeah, I still feel like that. I'm like, oh my God, that's so sweet. You did the dishes?
How nice that your husband cleared the table.
Like, what? I know. Like, I
What is
don't
wrong with me?
understand. But, the truth is, I think it's how we were raised in a way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I do think us making this stand is huge. I think it's going to also show, hopefully, our girls that you can make decisions, you can make these hard decisions, and you can keep going. I know there's a lot of resentment in my house right now, probably.
There's still a lot in my life too.
Yeah, and it's hard. That's the hardest part because we're pleasers, and it's
And I think yes, absolutely. But I think a huge part of it too, especially like when we're dealing with the family, is not only was my ex-husband part of my family part of my life for, 17, 18, 19 years. He was part of my family's life.
Yeah.
My sister, my
everyone.
cousins.
Yeah, no.
Right. So it would be unrealistic for me to assume that he is not going to still continue to be part of that life. So that was very difficult for me to where he would be invited to family functions and I wouldn't.
Well, that's weird. That is weird.
I mean,
you should be admitted.
I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a raging asshole or something.
No, I don't think so. But
No, I don't know. But it's gotten better now. We have sadly 2 parties for every event.
Yeah.
One that he can go to and one that I go to.
And hopefully one day that won't be 2. Like hopefully it'll be 1. But I think this podcast this time was talking about our divorces, but really to help others because I feel like divorce is very isolating. And you feel all this guilt and you feel like you can't talk about it with anyone. My friends reach out and I don't want to talk. Like, I don't know what to talk about. A lot of family has said to me, like, I didn't know how to call you. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it. And
it's kind of like when somebody loses a family member.
Yeah.
Everybody just kind of like they don't know what to say or how to act. And
And I feel like I've changed too. Like, I think I'm isolating more. I don't want to socialize
I
as
am as
much.
well.
I, when I'm with my kids, I want to be 100% with them. So then I don't want to socialize at night. And then the week I don't have them, I'm like, running away. Like, I can't figure out myself. And I think it's going to come back, but I
Yeah.
feel like that's a really tough, situation to be in. And like, I think that you and I are going through it a little bit the same, a little bit differently. And that's the thing with divorce, right?
Yeah, each one's different,
And
and
I feel like women, men, reach out to, your healthcare community, reach out to your friends and your family. They actually want to be there for you. Like, it's surprising, even if they have opinions in one ear, out the other. In the end, you're making your decisions, right?
right.
So, and you've made your decision. Like, that's the thing. Like, yes, and you can always go back. Like, just because you decided you want to get divorced doesn't mean that you have to get a divorce, right?
Right.
And even if you get divorced, you can still go back to this person. Nothing's final in life, right?
Right.
Except death.
Right.
So,
I don't recommend going through this and then going back.
no, no, no. I mean, yeah, no, I
Just
agree
me.
with you. Like, that's like horrible.
Unless you feel like you made the wrong decision and then you do
Yeah.
you.
But
But
there's no judgment. That's what I'm
right.
trying to say. There's no judgment. Reach out to your community. Therapy is extremely helpful during this time. And sometimes therapy could be in a form of talking to your family. The thing is, your family will have their own opinions, and sometimes that doesn't help you.
No.
Because you already judge yourself. You don't need anyone else
I
to
already have
judge
the
you.
guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, when people judge you, you just are like, you already have the pit in your stomach. You don't need more of it, right? So, like, the other day, my mom was talking to me, and I was going over kind of something, and I had to ask her a question, and then she just, I mean, her anxiety picked up, right? Because she's worried about me. So she's like, then you have to do this, and then you have to do that, and then and I was like, Mom, I can't talk to you if you're going to do that. Like, I cannot. And so, like, today she actually said to me, I'm not trying to be negative, but I get really upset.
Right.
So I think, once again, give your family grace, give yourself grace, and reach out. Like, this is a really, really hard time. I mean, the wailing tears, we've all done it. I mean, if you're going through this, right?
Yes. Yes.
The guilt, it's horrible. Looking at your kids.
The starting over at 40, it used to feel really good to say, "Oh yeah, I've been married for 12
Yeah,
years,
I
13
know.
years, 14 years." And people are like, "Wow." And now I'm like, "I'm divorced."
No, I know.
So that feeling, it's different.
No, I saw the sweet couple the other day, and I said, "Oh, hi. How long have you been married?" And they're like, 40 years. And I was like, "Oh, wow." And then I thought to myself, "Oh, wow."
Wow.
You know?
hmm
So yeah, I mean, this is the end of something, but it's the beginning of a different thing. It's just that you never thought, no one thinks they're going to go through a divorce. Like,
No.
it doesn't matter who picked the divorce, because I know, like,
There's
for my,
always a bad guy and a good guy.
like, and I am the bad guy
I am
because I
also the
picked
bad
it.
guy.
Because you picked a divorce,
Right.
right? So I don't think we're not the winners here ever. You know what I mean?
No, nobody won in this situation.
No. But, once again, I just think divorce is really hard. You're not alone.
But I can't get happy out of it. And
It
that was
will,
the whole point.
and a lot of people say, get through this first year and then it's going to get better. So I've got through the first year of separation. I don't know if it's another year after this, but I'm getting there.
It's coming.
I'm getting there. And I do feel happy. I feel like, wow, I did this. Like, just today I was walking in my house and I was like, I've been alone in this house. Not alone, but I've been like doing this for a year,
The actual divorce day is very difficult.
Oh, I can only imagine, because it's grief, right? Like,
Very difficult. I was like, oh, that's it.
yeah, so
Like,
simple.
the year was just taking forever. And then when it
Oh.
finally got there, the paper came in and it was like, congratulations, you're divorced.
It says
And I was like,
congratulations.
no.
Okay.
No.
I was like,
But I
wow.
was just like, oh, okay.
But I do think,
There's
like,
no,
mhm.
I don't know. It's done.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's just weird.
It's weird.
And then people were like, are you going to celebrate? No.
This is not something to
Why
celebrate.
why would you celebrate the death of a marriage?
I know. It's a
You know?
death. Yeah.
Am I happy that I now get to choose happy for me? Yes.
Yeah. It's symbolic.
Right.
It's all symbolic.
But it's definitely not something that I wanted to celebrate. I understand why people do it,
Mhm.
but to me it was sad.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm proud of us because it was not easy,
No.
but I think that this is just like the beginning of this topic. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again and again, because I can't help it because it's real and it's
It's all
happening. But
it's all
yeah,
consuming.
it is
Yeah.
it's all consuming, and I don't want to be alone during this, and I don't think you should be alone during this.
No.
And I think that reach out to our office, reach out to other offices. I mean, do what you got to do to get the help you need, but you're not alone. I am not alone. I don't want to be alone. So I need to share. And, I'm sure will upset some people that
Mhm.
we talked about this on an
Mhm.
open forum, but that's who I am. That's who you are. That's how you help people. You don't help people by like bottling up inside, or you don't even
Stay
help
married.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you got to talk. You got to get it out and process. So yeah. So I mean, keep in touch with us, and we'll keep going on this topic. And thanks for listening.